Hello, everyone. Let's have more news about the Steelers. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. The Pittsburgh Steelers just acquired a future Hall of Fame defensive player in Jalen Ramsey. Unfortunately, they might lose another one. While they've made it loud and clear that they have no intention whatsoever of trading TJ Watt, the former Defensive Player of the Year wants a contract extension that they might not be willing to give him. Steelers insider Jerry Dulac said on The Rich Eisen show that Watt wants to be the highest paid non quarterback in the NFL, and the Steelers know that's not a smart business decision. The stalemate is going to be that TJ Watt wants to be the highest paid non quarterback in the league, Dulac said. And the Steelers are looking at it that he's age 31. In order to accommodate any kind of large contract, it can't be a 3-year deal. It has to be a 5-year deal because you need to spread the money out. It's not a smart business decision for the Steelers, and they know it. Watt is looking to eclipse Jamar Chase's $25 million per year, and given his history of injuries, age, and position, that's going to be a risky bet by the Steelers. Dulac reported that both parties aren't close to an agreement, and since the Steelers saw a decline in his production last season, they're not likely to budge. They still have some time to get a deal worked out, but it wouldn't be shocking to see Watt threaten to hold out or even request a trade if his terms aren't met. Now let's go to another video. Don't forget to leave a like.
I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on a beautiful Wednesday. Of course, I'm still on vacation. We don't have our normal studio set up here, guys, but I still want to get you guys a free Steelers video out today, especially with all the interesting stuff to talk about after the blockbuster trade that happened earlier this week between the Steelers and Dolphins. Today, we're going to be talking about free agency targets that the Pittsburgh Steelers can still go out and pursue to make this football team better as we approach the 2025 season and Steelers training camp at the end of the month. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're going to have extensive Steelers coverage on this channel every single day leading up to the start of the 2025 campaign. So if you guys want that coverage, whether I'm on vacation, whether I'm back home in Dallas in our studio, we're going to get you guys free and informative Steelers content every single day. Okay, so let's start first with kind of the hottest position of interest after the Jalen Ramsey, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Jonnu Smith trade, specifically the safety position, because you don't get a safety in return, or at least not a free safety in return for Minkah Fitzpatrick, so that leaves a big hole at the starting free safety position for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and one of the avenues that they could go down is adding a safety in NFL free agency. There's still a number of pretty darn good safety options that were bona fide starters for NFL teams last year for the Steelers to consider. We did talk a little bit yesterday about why Juan Thornhill may be the starting free safety for the Steelers heading into the year. The Steelers could have signed anybody else that was on this list during free agency, and they decided to go with Juan Thornhill over all these safeties we're going to talk about here in just a second. So it's very possible the Steelers feel better about Thornhill and his fit inside the Steelers defense than any of the safeties we're going to be talking about today. But I know a lot of Steelers fans out there want to know what the options are for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the safety position. And of course, this is also assuming that Jalen Ramsey doesn't make the full-time switch to safety. We talked about on yesterday's show. Again, I recommend you guys check out yesterday's show to kind of see my view on how the Steelers are going to use Jalen Ramsey in this defense, but I think they're going to use him mostly in the nickel corner position. So that does leave that free safety position open when the Steelers are in their nickel packages, which is over 80% of the time. So I do have 6 potential safety targets that the Steelers could go out and get. And like I said, it could be Juan Thornhill, but we're just throwing out options here. Justin Simmons is probably the most favorite name among Steelers fans out there on Steelers Twitter right now. Simmons is getting up there in age. He's past the age of 30. Last year, and honestly for the last 2 years, he has really lost a step. He was starting to lose his step that final year in Denver. It takes a long time for him to sign with an NFL team in free agency. Last year, he signs with the Atlanta Falcons, and once again, we continue to see that athletic decline from Justin Simmons last year. And, there's a very good chance that if the Steelers sign him and he is their starting free safety, he's either continuing to look like, an older version of himself, or he looks even older and he continues that decline from an athletic perspective. Now, Simmons has never been like the fastest or most toolsy guy out there. He's been known more as an anticipator, as somebody that can, kind of read the eyes of the quarterback, read coverages and, put himself in the right position at the the right time. He's very savvy, and he still has that football intelligence. And it is that football intelligence that has allowed him to get as many interceptions as he has had throughout his NFL career. So personally, guys, because that free safety spot is open, and Justin Simmons to me is a true free safety, and obviously the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, they really cherish guys that can turn the football over. I think Justin Simmons is actually a really good fit inside the Steelers defense. Now we'll see if the Steelers like Justin Simmons more than Juan Thornhill. Juan is younger than Simmons is. He is faster than he is, and I would say at this point Thornhill is a better and more reliable tackler than Simmons is. Last year Simmons had, I believe, a 20% missed tackle rate at that safety position with the Atlanta Falcons. That's just way too high, and I know that's probably not something that the Steelers are super interested in. So the upside with Simmons is you're getting a hardy veteran that can turn the football over. He's going to be able to do a lot of the quote-unquote Minka ball stuff where he's anticipating certain route combinations and where the quarterback wants to go with the football. But he's a decreasing athlete, and he's not a very good tackler at this point in his career. Then there's another option out there, Quandre Diggs. Last year he spent with the Tennessee Titans. He's formerly with the Seattle Seahawks as well. Diggs had a Liz Frank fracture in his foot last year, and that's definitely going to be a concern if and when he signs with an NFL team heading into the year. But he's been a very solid starting safety in the league for a very long time, and if you're looking for somebody to inject into the Steelers defense, he's certainly an option as well. Also, Marcus Williams, formerly with the Saints and most recently with the Baltimore Ravens, is still available in NFL free agency. And, he's really, declined over the last year with Baltimore. His first few games with the Ravens, he was intercepting the football a lot. He was making plays around the football. And then towards the end of the year last year, he was pretty much getting replaced in that Ravens defense. So he certainly seems like somebody that's decreasing, but he's been a long-time starter in the league. So another guy to consider. Jordan Whitehead, somebody that played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year and then the New York Jets the year before that. He's very versatile. He's a little bit, he's less than 200 pounds, so he's more of a free safety, but he can also play in the nickel slot position as well. So if you ever want to, kind of interchange Jalen Ramsey in and out, Jordan Whitehead is somebody that's very solid, good tackler, you can inject into the Steelers defense as well. A very popular name on Steelers Twitter in terms of guys that they should add to this defense, Julian Blackmon, formerly with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, here's the thing about Blackmon, guys. He's younger than Juan Thornhill, but they're very similar types of players. They have pretty much the same exact physical skill set. They're the same size. They ran the same 40 time. Their games are very similar. And the Steelers took Juan Thornhill over Julian Blackmon in NFL free agency earlier this year. So it seems like if, between this kind of caliber of safety, the Steelers made their choice as to who they like better, and it's Juan Thornhill, right? So Julian Blackmon is a popular name that I think is probably a little bit less likely. Won't completely rule him out. He is on today's list, but just so you guys know, Julian Blackmon and Juan Thornhill are like identical style players. So if you're worried about Juan Thornhill, you might not want Julian Blackmon on this football team either. And then the final safety that we'll discuss today is Jordan Poyer. Poyer played with Aaron Rodgers, or not, actually he's never played with Aaron Rodgers, but he played with the Miami Dolphins last year, formerly with the Buffalo Bills. But he's very close with new Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. They both went on multiple ayahuasca retreats before. And as Aaron Rodgers likes to say, there's no bond like an ayahuasca retreat brotherhood. So Poyer is certainly somebody that, if the Steelers go to Rodgers and say, should we bring in this guy? 100% chance Rodgers says yes. So I'm not saying Rodgers has any say in that. But Poyer is a name that is connected to Rodgers. He's been a recent starter, so he's certainly a name to keep tabs on as well. Another option that the Steelers could do in terms of the defensive back situation here in Pittsburgh is that if they want to make Jalen Ramsey a safety full-time, as I discussed in yesterday's video, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But if they do, they could potentially add another slot corner to play in the slot while Ramsey plays safety full-time. There's two pretty darn good slot corners still available. Those are Mike Hilton and Asante Samuel Jr. Now, Steelers fans have been wanting Asante Samuel Jr. since the first day of free agency, even after they got Darius Slay. It doesn't seem like the Steelers have shown a whole bunch of interest in Asante this year, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. There's a lot of teams that are vying for Samuel's services this offseason. The Miami Dolphins are one of them. The Saints seem to be one of them. There's a bunch of different teams that are looking to get Asante Samuel, but it doesn't seem like the Steelers have shown all that much interest. And then Mike Hilton is somebody that was here from 2017 to 2020, blitzing extraordinaire. He was a little bit of a liability in coverage, so the Steelers ended up moving on from him. But his role as the blitzing slot corner was really good in the Steelers defense when he was here, and he had a pretty darn good PFF grade last year with the Cincinnati Bengals. So he can still play. So if you wanted to make Ramsey a full-time safety, you could get one of those two slot corners if you would like. And the final position that we can talk about is the wide receiver position. And, there's a lot of Steelers fans out there that are still wanting this team to add another receiver. I'm just going to warn you guys right now, I don't think the chances of them adding a receiver before camp are as high as some Steelers fans would want it to be. I think that the Steelers really feel like they're going to feature Jonnu Smith in this offense alongside DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin III, and they kind of feel like Jonnu is that big slot, wide receiver 2 type of player when they go to their 13 personnel packages on early downs. So I don't necessarily see them, making a trade for a wide receiver, let's say, and giving up a premium draft asset for a big name wide receiver. I think if they do add a receiver, it's probably going to be in free agency, and there are 4 names that most of the time get linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The one that I think is the most likely, guys, if they do add a wide receiver, if I had to guess right now, I think it would be Gabe Davis. There's been reporting from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, who has linked Gabe Davis to the Pittsburgh Steelers multiple times now since the conclusion or after the Jalen Ramsey trade went through. So obviously Gabe wants to be here. It sounds like the Steelers have some interest in him being here if he can prove that knee that he is coming off of is healthy. After injuring that knee last year in Jacksonville. Some other names that could be possible, Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen. Those are kind of big body route runners, and personally, I would love to add either one of them. All right, I think that Rodgers has really worked well with big body route runners throughout his career. Romeo Doubs, Davante Adams, etc. And adding a Cooper or an Allen, somebody with veteran experience, to add to this kind of younger group of wide receivers, I think would be another good addition for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Steelers haven't shown a ton of interest in Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen at this point, and it kind of seems like they're not super interested in bringing those guys in. Allen has said in the past that he's not super interested in playing in Pittsburgh. He didn't say he wasn't interested in playing for the Steelers. It just sounds like he doesn't think Pittsburgh's a very fun city, and he's not too interested in moving here. And then when it comes to Amari Cooper, I've discussed on the show before that I think probably the Steelers' bugaboo with him is that he doesn't run block, and that's his reputation around the league, is that he doesn't really try as a run blocker, and I don't think that appeals too much to Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. So those are probably the reasons why the Steelers haven't brought on Amari Cooper and or Keenan Allen, is because it sounds like Allen isn't too keen on joining the Steelers, and it doesn't sound like the Steelers are too keen on adding a guy like Amari Cooper. So Gabe Davis, I'd say, is probably the more likely option at the wide receiver position because he's a big body. He's an awesome run blocker. So, if you want that big body, presence out there as a run blocker on early downs, he can certainly be their guy for that. I will say his skill set is very redundant with DK Metcalf, only, he's not nearly as good. I would say they're very similar style of players, so it would be kind of weird to add him to this offense and have 2 of the same type of receiver in the same Steelers offense here. But, it seems like the Steelers really prioritize that run blocking aspect of the receiver position, and also Gabe Davis is an excellent deep threat. So, I think if they add a receiver, it'll probably be Gabe Davis. But another name that has been thrown out there here, and it's the last name we'll talk about on today's show, is Tyler Boyd, Pittsburgh native, Pitt Panther. Has said he wants to play for the Steelers at some point in his NFL career, and I just don't think it's going to happen, guys. He has said that he absolutely would like to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, that he and Mike Tomlin are buds and they're close. But here's the thing, guys. If the Steelers wanted him, they could have had him last year, and they could have had him this year, and the Steelers haven't brought him on. So it seems like Tyler is ready to pick up that phone and sign a contract to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers at any point, which means that it is the Steelers that have not shown interest in him. So I don't expect that to change necessarily. I think the Steelers are probably more interested in a guy like Gabe Davis. And like I've said and broken down on the show these last 2 days, I don't think the Steelers necessarily feel like they need to add another receiver. I feel like they really like the idea of living in multiple tight end sets, 2 and 3 tight end sets with Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington. I think they like the fact and the idea of DK Metcalf being out there as a kind of another big body. And I think they like the idea of being the biggest, baddest, most physical offense in the National Football League and forcing opposing defenses to match them in that regard, which is going to be very difficult.
But he's desperate this year. We've seen it in every move the Steelers have made. I was surprised in the aftermath of the trades that happened on Monday, where they acquired tight end Jonnu Smith and defensive back Jalen Ramsey for defensive back Minkah Fitzpatrick and a late-round pick swap in 2027. Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. I go on there every Wednesday afternoon. Usually it's 3:30. Today it's going to be a little earlier than that, but we've had that relationship for a long time. And I love to talk Steelers football because I know the Steelers as well, if not better than any team. I didn't know this. You know, the win projections from Vegas, because you can bet on the win totals, the over-under. It's right around their usual 9-8. Big surprise. But when you look at the games one at a time, they're only favored in 6 of their 17 games this year. And look, I know it's all going to change as we get closer to the games, but the idea that going into the season, 17 regular season games where the lines have been attached, the Steelers are only favored to win 6 games. 2 against the Browns, the Jets, the Seahawks, the Colts, and the Dolphins. That's it. 11 other games, Steelers are underdogs. Now, look, in some it's only 1.5 points, but still, for everything they've done, game by game, the bettors aren't believers. And that's with the assumption that TJ Watt is going to be there. You know, the odds didn't change much when Aaron Rodgers joined the team because the expectation that Rodgers was joining the team was baked in to the pre-existing odds. I think all the odds we've seen out there and the betting lines we've seen out there for the Steelers now are premised on TJ Watt being on the team. If he ends up not being on the team, oh boy. Look it up. I think it's 1-11. I think that's their record when he doesn't play. It's too late. It's just like the Dolphins. It's too late to extract TJ Watt from that locker room. If you're going to move on from TJ Watt, you got to do it in March. So you've got the full offseason program. You've got months for the players to come to terms with the fact that one of their most important players isn't going to be there. It's going to be interesting between Watt, Trey Hendrickson, and Michael Parsons. Very interesting when training camp rolls around. Who gets a deal first? Who gets a deal at all? Will any be traded? Could Watt be traded? When they put out, we have no intention to trade him, that's been the precursor. That's been the kiss of death. No intention to trade becomes actual trade. So we'll see. All right, mailbag time. This Wednesday edition of PFTPM. By the way, we're working on getting a new microphone. Some of you have been complaining about the microphone. The complaints about the microphone have shifted from the blinking lights, which I kind of dig, to the echo or the sound quality. And I mean, sorry, this isn't Dolby surround sound. You're getting content at a slow time when others are taking a vacation, when others are shut down. We're giving you fresh content. So if it comes with an echo or two, I ask that you tolerate it, but we are looking into getting.
Veteran wide receiver Tyler Boyd has expressed strong interest in playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. A native of Pittsburgh, Boyd recently stated that he would absolutely welcome the opportunity to join his hometown team. This interest is more than just speculative, as reports indicate that he has had conversations with the Steelers during the current offseason. Steelers insider Mark Kaboly shared during an appearance on 93.7 The Fan that Boyd and the Steelers have indeed been in touch. However, Kaboly noted uncertainty about whether any formal contract offer was made during those discussions. The nature of their talk seems exploratory at this point, rather than indicative of an imminent signing. One major factor potentially holding up a deal is Boyd's contract expectations. According to Kaboly, the wide receiver has not received the type of financial offers he's hoping for from any team so far this offseason. As a result, Boyd is continuing to wait in hopes that a better deal will eventually emerge, possibly from the Steelers or another team in need of veteran depth. The Steelers currently have a receiving core that includes DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Robert Woods, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skowronek. Boyd, who spent 8 seasons with the Bengals and played last season with the Titans, had a relatively quiet year in Tennessee, logging 39 receptions for 390 yards. Despite the modest stats, his experience and Pittsburgh ties may still make him a viable option for the Steelers roster. Newly acquired Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback Jalen Ramsey will continue wearing his preferred jersey number 5 with his new team. Ramsey shared an image of his Steelers jersey on social media, confirming the number choice. And you, fan, what do you think about Tyler Boyd's situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.